Hello, everybody. Welcome to Level the Field Leadership. My name is Dr. Rachel Gallardo, and as always, I'm super thankful that you've decided to join me today. If you are watching this on YouTube, then you can see that I'm still in the football jersey. If you're watching this when it's published, I'm actually recording this the Sunday before, and it was a really bad football day. But you know what? We're not here to talk about football. We're here to make sure that we grow and develop ourselves on a professional level so that way we can be there 100% for our teams, and we can also make sure that we are there for ourselves, that we empower ourselves to do great leadership. I really and truly believe that you're here today because you want to level the field of challenges that you encounter in the work environment. And my goal is to give you those tools so that way you can do those things. I started this podcast, gosh, it's been almost 4 years now, because I really truly believe that workplace burnout is real. And I do believe that anything we can do to reduce burnout and fatigue in our leadership roles is going to have a positive impact on our teams, on the people that we work with, on our home life, the whole 9 yards. So I do try to post a new episode on the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month. If you are a returning listener, thank you, thank you, thank you. I greatly appreciate you. If you are a new listener, I thank you as well. And I hope that you find value in what it is that I'm going to be talking about today, and you can use this information to immediately implement it into your own leadership so that way you can improve along the way. Again, you can find this on all of the different places that you're currently listening. So if you're watching this, if you're more of a visual person and you want to see all of the facial expressions and the hand gestures, come check me out on YouTube. If not, if you're more of an auditory learner, I'm just thankful that you are tuning in. So let's get into it. As you guys know, I kind of like to base it off of just scripture and some personal things that I might be dealing with. So for me, Philippians 4:6 really kind of resonated over the last couple of weeks. Said, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." And oftentimes, this whole idea of emotional labor, it can really be because we're not releasing something, we're carrying around some sort of emotional baggage. And until we learn to release and let go of that emotional baggage, then this idea of having emotional labor and then ultimately that developing or manifesting itself that much further into burnout has an increased chance of occurring. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Okay, so first and foremost, what in the world is emotional labor? So if you look at the definition, and there is a ton of research out there that talks about emotional labor, go out to Google Scholar, just do a general search of emotional labor, and you can see so many articles out there that have done research on this, across multiple industries, across multiple fields, across multiple countries. And so you can kind of see how this is trending and see how it applies to your particular industry and your particular leadership role. But ultimately, when we talk about emotional labor, we're looking at the work involved when someone has to manage their own emotions and expressions when interacting with other people. So this is particularly true if they're serving a customer or serving a client. If you're a teacher and you're trying to teach a class, ultimately you are suppressing any sort of negative emotions that you might have, whether that be towards your organization, towards your colleagues, or maybe there's something going on personally. Maybe there's just a lot of stress that's happening in your personal life, and you're choosing to suppress all of those things down so you can be there 100% for your customers, for your clients, for your fellow colleagues, whatever. So when we talk about real world examples, this can be a teacher that chooses to suppress their emotions about a student that's dealing with maybe they don't have they have like a food scarcity situation. And so the teacher knows that there's only so much that they can do about it. And there's also 30 other students that they have to take care of. So they're trying to suppress their own personal emotions about this particular student situation so that way they can keep moving forward and making sure that they are teaching their curriculum. It could be, maybe there's somebody in retail and they are still continuing to show that positive customer service, even though they absolutely 1000% don't feel like doing it because their mom has stage 2 cancer and this particular worker is just scared, and they're at work, they're going through the motions, they're doing the best they can, but ultimately they're just really, really worried about their mom. Another example of this would be like maybe a nurse who just continues to serve their patients, and he makes sure that he shows up, but he's trying to provide the best kind of care that he can, but there's been some changes at the upper levels of hospital administration, and there's rumors about jobs being cut. And so he's worried about, how am I going to provide for my family? If so-and-so is, I got to make sure I put braces on my daughter. And, there's all these sorts of things, but every single day he still shows up for his patients, suppresses whatever issues he personally might be feeling, so that way he can be 100% present. So emotional labor really and truly can be found in a number of different ways. It's not just limited to one industry. It's not limited to, one position, or, it doesn't only happen if you're like the CEO of the organization. Everybody to a certain extent has this issue of emotional labor, because we have things that are happening to us on a regular basis. And so how we can control the certain situations, or sometimes we have to just sit back and let it happen, we can still have a certain feeling about that. Like, you can still feel a certain way about it, but still managing to be there and do your job to the best of your ability. But yet you've got all of this, cognitive thing going on in the back of your head. So why is it that I bring this up? Why is this something that you need to be mindful of? Well, it can, if you continue to carry emotional labor and you don't address it, if you don't deal with it, or if you don't find a way to offload it, completely understand, okay, this is not my responsibility. I really and truly can't do anything about the situation. So I'm just gonna let it go, and I'm gonna trust that everything's gonna work out okay. If you don't take that approach, or if the stressor doesn't just magically go away, it will eventually lead to full-on burnout. And I've talked about burnout. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, right? Is to talk about burnout. But burnout really and truly can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. From a physiological standpoint, so just the effects you can feel with your body if you're feeling burned out. There could be severe headaches. Maybe you're overeating or undereating. You're oversleeping or undersleeping. You've just got racing thoughts. In severe situations, you might have high blood pressure. It might lead to cancer, heart attack, all of those bad things that we don't want to have happen to us. And from a mental standpoint, it can, like I said, it can lead to those kind of racing thoughts. But it can also be one of those feelings like, oh my gosh, I have so much that I need to do. I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just going to throw my hands up and say, forget it, because what's the point? And whenever you feel as though you're operating in that state, and it's not just like a bad day. Like, we're talking, you have been feeling these things, you've been experiencing these things for the last 3 or 4 months, then it is a higher likely chance that you are operating in burnout. And I don't want for you to get to that point of burnout. I want for you to be able to recognize what emotional labor is, identify it for what it is, so that way we can, if we can't get rid of it, we can at least get in a better headspace about it, so that way you can move forward. If you are a leader, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, you're a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. So all of the leaders out there, if you are distracted, if there is something going on that you are having to suppress, then that needs to be question number one, because why are you suppressing it? Like, that's always my first question whenever somebody brings this up. I really and truly want to know why you're suppressing it. Is it something that you can talk with your team about? Why do you not feel comfortable being transparent and authentic about what is going on? Is it something that you're embarrassed about? Because guess what? We all have personal things going on in our life that are going to pop up. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You don't have to carry this whole idea of perfectionism in place. If you've got something going on, say, hey, look, and even if you don't want to go into the details of it, you can at minimum say, look, I just want to let you know that I've got some personal things that I'm dealing with. So if I'm a little off, that's why. Don't take it personally. If I have an issue, I will address it with you. If I just don't seem like myself, these are the reasons, this is the reason why I don't seem like myself. But you cannot avoid it. Okay. Good leaders are going to deal with the situation. They're going to face it head on. They're going to address it in a manner that is respectful. Now, I don't want you acting crazy, because, crazy is not okay. But you want to use emotional intelligence to just let your team know, let a colleague that you trust, let them know like what's going on, because they might actually be able to offer up better words of wisdom and help you navigate through whatever issue it is that you're dealing with. But to think that you have to deal with it all alone is actually going to make it worse. So you want to try to address the issue, let people know that this is what you have going on, let people know this is what you're dealing with, so that way you can address it and move forward. If you don't address it, it's going to compound. It is going to get worse before it gets better, All right. So that's the first way to overcome this whole idea of emotional labor about what you may have going on. The second thing, I'm going to give you 4. So your first thing is just to acknowledge that, yes, I am operating in a state where I'm experiencing emotional labor. All right. The second thing I want for you to do is to do an assessment of what is and is not working in your world. So what is it that you need to start doing differently? Because quite frankly, you can't keep doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, expecting to get a different result. That is the definition of insanity. We're just not gonna go down that road. Okay. So what is working? So if you've got some sort of stressor that's happening in your life, you've had some sort of a life event that's occurred, or maybe there's some sort of change that is happening within your organization, and you can feel that emotional labor kind of building. Just really stop and ask yourself, okay, what process am I currently doing that is working? And what process is not working? Because the process that is not working, you're going to have to look at change management. You're going to have to figure out a way to do it differently. I did a whole episode on ADKAR and change. I would encourage you to go listen to that, because if you don't like change like me, having that ADKAR model in place can be very, very helpful for you to kind of walk through the change management process to make sure that you're implementing change that's going to benefit you. But quite frankly, you got to do something differently. And the only thing that I can promise you is that every industry is going to change. The people on your team are going to change, because guess what? They're going to have life events that are going to occur. They're going to grow, and they're going to have different beliefs, different ideas. I mean, your team is constantly evolving in some way, shape, or form. So to think that you can do the exact same thing that you did a year ago is just simply not true. But you have to be the one, because you're the leader, you're the one that's responsible for supporting your team and communicating with your team. You have got to be the one to figure out, okay, what is it that we need to do differently? And doing that thing differently starts with you. Okay, so item number 1, you need to first recognize that you're in this emotional labor state. Item number 2, I need you to do an honest assessment about what is and is not working in your life. The third thing that you have to do is one of my favorite words. And I don't get paid to promote him, but I just have to say that Dr. Henry Cloud does have a book out called Boundaries. And this is the third recommendation that I have. Set boundaries with yourself and with others. So what in the world does that look like? A lot of times people will try to come and tell you different things, try to involve you in situations, try to inform you about things that are happening, when quite frankly, there is literally nothing you can do about it. And for you to insert yourself into that situation is going to cause more harm than good. You have got to know, what is it that I can and can't control? The Serenity Prayer is my go-to on this. Give me the wisdom to know what is and is not within my control. If it's within your control to do something differently, then freaking do it. But if it's not within your control to do differently, then you've got to figure out a way to maybe see it differently, to manage the situation differently. Maybe there are other people that need to take on certain responsibilities, or maybe there needs to be a change in how the reporting structure is. But ultimately, you have got to establish those boundaries with yourself and with other people. Turn off your phone, go to sleep at night, right? There's nothing you can do, sitting there scrolling on your phone at 2 till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. If anything, you're depriving yourself of sleep. You are weakening your immune system because you're not able to get sleep. You're increasing your anxiety. You're increasing your cortisol level, which means you're you're just, all sorts of bad things are happening in your body. If it's not within your ability to control the situation, if it's not within your ability to make change, then you've got to find a way to release it. And quite frankly, there are some people who will literally bring situations to you because they don't feel like addressing it, but they want you to address it. So I like to call these the Debbie dumpsters. They just kind of come along and they try to dump something on your plate. And as a leader, one of the most powerful questions that you can ask somebody, if you feel as though this is happening, is for you to tell them, what would you like me to do about this situation? And then have them really say out loud what they need for you to do. And then you can let them know, okay, but that's not really feasible, or that's not going to work, or even encourage them, well, you're wanting me to do this, why don't you do this? So this could really and truly be an opportunity for you to empower your team. But if you're the one that's stepping in and doing everything, you're not empowering them. And guess what? You have actually just told them that you will do this for them again and again and again and again. None of that is healthy for you, and it doesn't grow and develop your employee either. All right. So number one, you got to recognize what is going on in your life. Number two, we got to write what is working and what is not working. Like literally take a piece of paper, line down the middle, what works, what not works at the top of both sides of that line, and then make your bulleted list. The third thing, set boundaries with yourself and with other people. And then the fourth thing, I kind of already alluded to it, but I want to mention it again. Find somebody, even if it's just one or two people, that you can share with them the situation that you are currently dealing with. So spread the word. And whenever you do that, you're actually going to gain a new perspective. They may have suggestions that you hadn't thought about. They may have somebody in their wheelhouse. Like they could be like, oh, well, wait a minute. If you give me a minute, I can call so-and-so. They've actually been through this before. They can tell you what to do and, make some recommendations. I think too oftentimes whenever we have things going on with us emotionally, we isolate. And isolation, I think, is sometimes the worst thing that can happen because we get in our own way and we kind of start to believe the negative stuff because it's easier to believe the negative than it is the positive. But letting other people know what you're dealing with and looking at the perspectives that they offer can really and truly be valuable. But you do have to be willing to show a little bit of transparency and a little bit of vulnerability to convey that information. There's no shame in saying, look, I'm really struggling. There's no shame in saying, look, I'm a little concerned about the changes in our hospital administration and, the fact that there might be layoffs. Like, talk about it. Because I can promise you other people are probably feeling the same thing. And there's no reason for people to feel isolated when we can come together and support each other. And good leaders know how to listen. They know how to motivate other people, but they also know how to be empathetic and they also know how to find solutions. And so by you sharing what you're dealing with, what emotional labor you're possibly carrying with others, you're actually modeling the example of what a good leader should be. And people are actually going to respect you a little bit more, not just as a leader, but as a human being for being fully transparent and authentic. So I hope that kind of gave you a few things to think about when we're looking at this idea of emotional labor. Take some time to think about how you might be getting in your own way. Maybe me talking about some of these things, you've realized, you know what? I'm trying to fix something that is not even my responsibility. I've overstepped. This is not my problem. Maybe you need to make that phone call and let that other person know, like, look, I support you, but I will no longer be doing this for you anymore. And remember, if you focus on changing just one thing a month, by this time next year, you will have changed 12 things. So imagine how differently your leadership style can look if you change 12 different things. But I do really and truly believe that you are made to be a leader right where you are, wherever you're leading. I want to challenge you to share this with somebody that you know is dealing with a lot emotionally. And for whatever reason, they're not letting other people help them, or they're not sharing what is going on, but you know that it's challenging for them. Maybe if you share this particular episode with them, it will get them to open up and maybe they will kind of drop down some of the baggage that doesn't belong to them so they can be just as effective as you are. But, help other people. I do believe that this podcast can help you face the challenges while you're walking the journey of leadership. But I want to encourage you to just make sure that you continue to take care of yourself, take care of your team. You can 1000% do this. And until next time.